This 232nd annual communication of the Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons is reconvened. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for attending. It's been swell. I'll see you later. See you next year. No, Bill, you're missing the point. I'm going to walk out the door with the collar.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
I'm easy. I'll just put on the hat and go.
There you go. Brothers in Marshall, I believe we have some individuals outside the door who have an important business to do. Would you please go out and bring them in?
Master, it is my privilege and honor to introduce the installing suite of Most Worshipful Brother Gary Arsenault, installing master. Most Worshipful Brother Theodore J. Nelson, installing marshal. Worshipful Brother Bert Turner, chaplain.
Brother Arsenault, would you and your suite please come under your current escort towards the Grand East?
Okay, now you follow us. Good. You got your bet on? Huh? Oh, you're gonna, no, right there's good. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the installation of the 2021 Grand Lodge officers. Most Worshipful Brother installing marshal, you will please retire the officers of the Grand Lodge Ancient Free and Accepted Masons of Connecticut of 2020.
The brothers just following behind me. We'll make one route around the altar.
Most Worshipful Brother installing marshal, you will please retire the Most Worshipful Grand Master Ancient Free and Accepted Masons of Connecticut of 2020.
Take my water bottle.
Yes. But you could leave it if you want. I'll take care of it. right, now we got to see how fast they are. It always is a very confusing time because they've spent one whole year in a certain place in the line, and now they got to get in a different position, and it's kind of odd going there. Oh, boy. See, he's after all the instructions. One more time. Brother installing marshal. You will please escort in the officers of 2021 for the Grand Lodge of Connecticut. Oh, get it without the glasses. Most worshipful brother installing marshal, you will please escort in and introduce the Grand Master for 2021 of the Ancient, Free, and Accepted Grand Lodge of Connecticut. At the altar, yes. Worshipful brother Bert Turner, will you please lead us in prayer? Oh, you got to introduce him first. I forgot, please. Nobody knows who he is yet.
Most worshipful installing master, I am pleased to introduce brother William Bowman, who has been elected to become Grand Master of Ancient Free and Accepted Nations of the state of Connecticut for 2021. Leave me your office, okay.
Worshipful brother Bert Turner, will you please lead us in prayer?
Let us pray. Vouchsafe thine aid, Almighty Father of the universe, to this our present convention, and grant that this thy servant may dedicate and devote himself to thy service and to the ideals of Freemasonry. Endue him with the competency of thy divine wisdom, that by the secrets of our art he may be better enabled to display the beauties of brotherly love, relief, and truth, and furnish us an example of temperance, fortitude, and prudence, and justice, to the honor of thy holy name. Amen.
So mote it be. My brother, you will please kneel at the altar. You will say "I" and repeat your name.
William Bowman,
And repeat after me. In the presence of Almighty God
in the presence of Almighty God,
and this Grand Lodge of Connecticut,
and this Grand Lodge of Connecticut,
do promise and swear
do promise and swear
that to the best of my ability,
that to the best of my ability,
I will faithfully,
I will
faithfully,
faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and honestly
and honestly
perform all the duties
perform all the duties
of Grand Master
of Grand Master
of this jurisdiction
of this jurisdiction
during the term of my office,
during the term of my office,
and that I will conform to
and that I will conform to
and maintain
and maintain
the constitutions,
the Constitution,
rules, and regulations
rules, and regulations
of the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge
of the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge
of Connecticut,
of Connecticut,
and the usages and customs
and the usages and customs
of ancient, free, and accepted craft masonry
of ancient, free, and accepted craft masonry,
will at all times
will at all times
enforce compliance thereto.
and will at all times enforce compliance thereto.
So help me God,
So help me God,
and keep me steadfast.
and keep me steadfast.
You may arise, my worshipful brother, for henceforth in Freemasonry you are thus to be known. Brother Marshall, you will please conduct our new Grand Master to the east. Up. All the way into the rarefied atmosphere. My brother, when I introduce you into your chair in the Grand East, it will be the performance of the solemn duty to symbolically of the commencement of your governance of the ancient craft in Connecticut. The interests and well-being of Connecticut Freemasons are far better or worse than your responsibilities during the term of your office as Grand Master. By immemorable usages of the landmarks of Masonry, you, as the Grand Master, are invested with the great authority and grave responsibility. A generous understanding in mind is made cautious and gentle in the exercise of the power of authority. To rule and govern well is an honorable ambition, but is not by the strong arm or iron will that obedience and order, the chief requisites of good government, are secured. Rather, it is by knowing the way to the hearts of men. I will now clothe and invest you with the external insignias of your rank for the birth and the authority in Connecticut Masonry and before the world. Your collar of purple. See if I can hang you up. And the jewel of your office. Your hat. Did you have a hat? Where's your hat, my brother? Let's see, where are we? And your hat, symbolic of the crown that King Solomon wore as an emblem of his honor and dignity, which you, ancient, free, and accepted Masonry's first most excellent Grand Master. Your gavel, well, you can borrow this one for now. Is it down there? Ah, nice. Your gavel is as potent symbol of Masonic power and authority, which in your hands should never sound in vain. And now to you, I relinquish the seat in the Grand East and tender to you the first act of homage as Grand Master of Masons in Connecticut. Most worshipful Grand Master, you're going to need your own advice for this. Most worshipful Grand Master, behold your brethren. Brethren, behold your new Grand Master and greet him with a hearty applause. Done now? Okay, now you can take it. Installing Grand Marshal, conduct the Deputy Grand Master-elect east of the altar or west of the altar and cause him to kneel, so in the presence of this Grand Lodge, he may also take upon himself the obligations of office.
Most worshipful Grand Installing Master, I present Brother Bruce Belmore to be installed as Deputy Grand Master.
Please kneel at the altar, my brother. I know. At the outset, when Freemasonry in its wisdom organized the concept of Grand Lodge, the official duty of the Deputy Grand Master was to introduce into its structure. So, Brother Belmar had been given your attention to the ceremony of installing the Most Worshipful Grand Master and your knowledge of the constitutions and regulations. You are aware that in the case of his incapacity to act in the fulfillment of the responsibilities of his office, you will succeed his duties and prerogatives, as you do also when acting as his substitute in matters specifically designated to you. Your office, therefore, is one of great dignity and importance. Remember and contemplate that all has been said and assumed by the Grand Master. For you know not how soon the responsibility may have a personal application to you. Remember also that the Masonic usages, as well as our specific regulations, have placed you in the utmost intimate and confidential relationship to him as supporter and consort. Brother Belmore, do you obligate yourself without equivocation and reservation to all the duties of your office, so help you God?
I do.
You may rise. It is with pleasure that I direct the Marshal to invest you with the jewel of his office, your office, Deputy Grand Master of Masons in Connecticut. Uh-oh. Okay, well, when it's repaired, we'll put you in your chair. Right Worshipful Deputy Grand Master, the Marshal will now escort you to your place in the lodge. Welcome to the East, my brother. Installing Grand Marshal, you will cause all the other Grand Lodge officers elected and appointed to rise and place their right hands over their hearts. My brothers, as officers of the Grand Lodge, serving with Most Worshipful Brother Bowman, for the ensuing year, you have heard our Grand Master obligate himself to the duties of his office, agreeable to our Grand Lodge constitutions, rules, and regulations. You freely, fully assent to the same without equivocation or reservation. Assume such obligations and specifically as they apply to the duties and responsibilities of your individual offices. So help you God.
I do.
Brother Installing Marshal, you will cause all the officers to be seated and the wardens elect to rise. Senior warden, the junior.
You want both?
Yep, that's what it says.
They have risen.
Okay. Well, they're really close. Whoa. You will now conduct them west of the altar for introduction.
Yep, him. Thank you.
Oh, that's important. Most worshipful installing grandmaster, it's my honor to present Brother Joe Porco, who has been elected to be Grand Senior Warden, and Brother, what is it? This is Edward Page, Brother Edward Page.
I do
to
believe
be
you are
Grand
correct.
Junior Warden.
Brother Porco and Brother Page, you have been elected Grand Senior Warden and Grand Junior Warden. When the Grand Master looks from the east out over the Grand Lodge assembled, he sees an ever familiar lodge with the Grand Senior Warden in the west and the Grand Junior Warden in the south, and the other officers in their proper stations and places. Thus, the importance of your stations is underscored. The Grand Wardens serving two officers with singular function, but having duality of purpose. Brother Grand Senior Warden, you will now be invested with the jewel of your office. And Brother Grand Junior Warden, you will also be installed with your jewel. My brothers, serve your Grand Master and the craft in your commitment to your office. Brother Installing Marshal, you will escort them to their stations in the lodge. Shortcut. Grand Installing Marshal, you will escort the Treasurer and Assistant Treasurer west of the altar for introduction.
Well, sir, my pleasure to introduce our incoming treasurer, Newton Butler III, and associate versus Newton Butler son, Brian Fields, Brother Brian.
Right Worshipful Buckner, you have been elected to serve the Connecticut Freemasonry as Grand Treasurer of the Grand Lodge. Funds, books, and fiscal management are placed in your care as one well qualified to keep and manage them, as you have demonstrated your service in the past. They must never be used by you in any other manner than the Constitution's rules and regulations shall direct. The jewel of your office is the keys, which you are now invested in with, are a twofold significance. They are instruments to bind as well as to loosen, fasten as well as open. Right Worshipful Brother Beals, you have been appointed to serve the Connecticut Freemasonry as Deputy Grand Master of this Grand Lodge, and you have heard the duties and responsibilities of the Grand Treasurer. You are to maintain a constant vigilance over the fiscal management of this Grand Lodge, keeping yourself ever ready to respond to the needs of the Grand Treasurer and to assume the duties of that office should occasion warrant. Brother Installing Marshal, you will escort our Grand Treasurer and Assistant Grand Treasurer to their stations.
Brian, follow.
Brother Installing Marshal, you will present the Grand Secretary and the Assistant Grand Secretary west of the altar for introductions. Oh, it gets deputy, okay.
Most worshipful sir, again, my pleasure to introduce Brother Brent S. Gould as elected as Secretary of the Year, and his Associate Secretary is Brother James Anderson, of course.
Right Worshipful Brother Gould, you have been elected to serve the Grand Lodge as Grand Secretary. The duties of your office are numerous and varied and demanding. Your ability to promptly and faithfully execute them has induced your brethren to put their trust in you. I invest you with the jewel of your office, bearing the pens of the recorder's craft, symbolic of your obligation to Masons of Connecticut and to keep a true and just account of your official doings on the behalf of the Grand Lodge. Brother Anderson, you have been appointed to serve the Grand Lodge Freemasonry as Deputy Secretary of the Grand Lodge, and you have heard the duties and responsibilities of the Grand Secretary. You are to maintain a constant vigilance over the administrative management of this Grand Lodge, keeping yourself ever ready to respond to the needs of the Grand Secretary and to assume the duties of that office should occasion warrant. You will now be conducted to your places in the lodge. Brother Installing Marshal, you will present the senior and junior stewards west of the altar for introduction. Oh, wait a minute. Deacons first.
I worked so hard to memorize.
I know. And Bill keeps pushing me, get it over, get it over.
Most worshipful sir, starting to get the hang of this. I have with me today Brother Les B. King, who has been appointed as Grand Senior Deacon, and his cohort in crime is Brother Naldo F. Maliano Jr., who has been appointed the Grand Junior Deacon. Leave them in your fraternal care.
Brother King, you have been appointed senior deacon of this Grand Lodge. As participants in the Grand Lodge ceremonies, both of you, your official positions are essential to the comfort and good order and presence. As Grand and Senior Deacons, you are now invested with the jewels of your office.
Wake up, Ted. When you start thinking about the next movie, you just think about the real next movie. Thank you very much.
And the rods as the symbols of your authority and function. On those occasions when you as deacons, along with the grand stewards, are called upon to erect your rods to arch over the symbolic lodge, you yourself become a living part of that arch for all to behold. So would it be. Installing Grand Marshal, you will conduct our brothers to their places in the lodge. Installing Grand Marshal, you will please present the Marshal west of the altar for introduction.
Most worshipful sir, I have the honor to present Brother Shane Dufresne, who has been appointed to be Grand Marshal for the ensuing year.
Brother Dufresne, the good of the Grand Master's ceremonial relationships with his officers and with the fraternity in general assemblies and processions depends upon your skill and assiduity. The duties of your office require energy, activity, quickness of perception, and always a radiant personality in the service of both the Grand Master and the Grand Lodge. Possessing such qualifications, you are invested with the jewel and baton of your office and sent forth to labor. We only have one baton. So. Did you lose it?
Marshal. Let's go down. I have the time.
Brother Installing Marshal, I see you found the baton. Good. Would you please present the senior and junior stewards west of the altar? Yeah, right.
Follow me right over here. There you go, senior and junior. Okay, let's see how I can do it. Most worshipful sir, it's my honor and pleasure to present Brother Matt Heinrich along with Brother Mark Hawkins, who have been appointed senior steward, grand senior steward, and grand junior steward, respectively.
Brother Heinrich and Brother Hawkins. Attention and diligence in the observation of the workings of the Grand Lodge are essential requisites of your offices and in our Grand Lodge. As Grand Senior Steward and Grand Junior Steward, you are now invested with the jewels of your office. And the rods of your authority will be placed in your hands. What was said to you or said to the grand deacons concerning the participation in ceremonies where the rods carry applied equally to the grand stewards. Strive to excel in all that you do in Freemasonry. Brother Installing Marshal, you will escort them to their places in the lodge.
Take a seat.
Brother Installing Marshal, you will present the chaplain west of the altar.
Most worshipful sir, I have the privilege to introduce to you, brother, yes, Brother Harry Elliott, who is appointed Grand Chaplain.
Right, worshipful Brother Kelly, you have been appointed to the sacred position of Grand Chaplain. You are now invested with the jewel of your office. My brother, the principles of morality and virtue which you are accustomed to expound to the world as a minister of God will appropriate lessons you will be expected to recommend to your brethren. The profession you have chosen as your lot in life affords the best proof that you will discharge the duties of your present appointment with loyalty to your God and this Grand Lodge, and with faith as well as charity towards all mankind. Installing marshal, you will please conduct him to his place in the lodge. Further installing marshal, you will present the Grand Almoner west of the altar for introduction. Figure number one.
Most worship serve as a honor of religion, but not only setting and introducing to this brother, but it's also read as most are here special today. Brother Carl Anderson, who is our host today, to put this whole assembly together for us and publish. I leave him in your care as appointed Grand Almoner.
Right worshipful brother, you have been appointed Grand Almoner of this Grand Lodge for the ensuing year and now invested with the jewel of your office. As the Grand Chaplain is responsible for attending to the spiritual needs of the brethren, the Grand Almoner is responsible for attending to the Grand Lodge's effort to provide assistance in the time of adversity and need. You have the responsibility of being well informed about the health and well-being of the members who compose this Grand Lodge's family, so that when adversity arises, the Grand Lodge can assist member lodges in their fulfillment of their duties to help, aid, and assist. Your duties will require patience, sensitivity, compassion, a listening ear, and a caring heart. An understanding of the benefits of each of our Masonic charities can be solved. Together with the processes for obtaining the necessary assistance is very important. I wish you every success and personal satisfaction as you carry on your important duties. I will remind you that it is your duty to help the brethren. It is my duty to remind you all that it is your duty to help the almoner in bringing his attention to every matter of possible interest to assist him at all times. Further installing marshal, you will escort our brother to his place in the lodge. Brother installing marshal, you will present the Grand Tyler and the Associate Grand Tylers west of the altar for introduction and installation.
Introduce to you the audience, Brother Richard C. Emmett Jr. And his virtual brothers are, as he's Tyler, he's been appointed Grand Tyler, but the associate Grand Tylers are virtual. They are Brother Robert Toby, and Brother Tony Angelica. And Tony's doing some stellar work over at the Scottish Rite Cathedral, keeping everything all the lights on.
Got to keep the lights on. Right worshipful brothers, the importance of your places in our Grand Lodge is known to all Masons. Courtesy, care, and watchfulness are essential, since ours is a sanctuary entrusted to your faithful vigilance to guard at all times. Your place is without the door of the Grand Lodge, to which you will now retire vested with your jewels of your office. And we'll do it anyway. Armed with the proper instrument of your office, there you will carry out your most worshipful Grand Master's will and pleasure. Well, he'll still be armed with the proper instrument in his office when he gets out there. Please conduct him to his place in the lodge. He's got a little one right there, yeah. Brother Installing Marshal, you will please present the Grand Historian west of the altar for installation. No?
Not here.
Okay.
That's Brother Andrew Malillo. He's doing a very stellar job as Grand Historian. And if just take 1 second, we found out that through his lineage, he's actually related back. You got to chase the genealogy up a bit to Gary Littlefield. So it was a fantastic appointment, and he's taking the job very, very seriously.
You have a communications officer? Okay. Installing Marshal, you will please present west of the altar the assistant to the Grand Master for the ensuing year.
Most worshipful sir, I have the pleasure to introduce to you and the Reverend Lady Yes, Brother Donald Skinner, who has been appointed assistant to most worshipful Grand Master.
Brother Skinner, you have been appointed to serve the Connecticut Freemasonry as the assistants to the Grand Master for the ensuing year and are now invested with the jewel of your office. You are to serve as the personal representative of the Grand Master in his home district and to perform such duties as he may specifically delegate and assign to you. Your duties will be varied and many may be numerous and will require flexibility and diligence. Brother Grand Marshal, you will escort him to his place in the lodge, which I think is usually up here. Right? Brethren of the Grand Lodge, I now declare the officers elected and appointed of the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge of the state of Connecticut. No, you got another one? Oh, that wasn't in here. So I'll have to fake it. Okay. Brother Installing Marshal, what'd you say? Yeah. I know how to improvise. Brother Installing Marshal, will you please escort the grand organist west of the altar for introduction? Yeah. No fair.
Most worshipful sir, we have today with us the appointed organist, Brother Gary Graham, for the ensuing year.
Brother Brown, you have been appointed, did I say that? Oh, okay. Brother Brown, you have been appointed organist of this Grand Lodge for the ensuing term and are now invested with the jewel of your office. Invest him with the jewel?
Do you have a jewel?
Yeah, he does.
I got it.
Under the direction of the Grand Master, you will conduct the musical exercises of this Grand Lodge as he may direct. Brother Marshal, you will please escort him to his place in the lodge. And now, my brothers, I declare the officers elected and appointed of the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge, Ancient, Free, and Accepted Masons of Connecticut, duly installed in office for the ensuing year in due form. Brother Installing Marshal, you will make your proclamation.
Most worshipful Grand Master and ancient free and accepted Masons of the state of Connecticut, I am directed to proclaim, and I do proclaim, that the most worshipful Grand Master, along with the elected and appointed officers of this Grand Lodge, have been duly installed in their respective places and stations. This proclamation is made from the south. By order of the most worshipful Grand Master of ancient free and accepted Masons of the state of Connecticut, I am directed to proclaim, and I do proclaim, that the most worshipful Grand Master, along with the grand elected officers and appointed grand elected officers, have been duly installed in their respective places and stations. This proclamation is made from the west. Most worshipful Grand Master of ancient free and accepted Masons of the state of Connecticut, I am directed to proclaim, and I do proclaim, that the most worshipful Grand Master and the elected Grand Lodge officers and appointed Grand Lodge officers have been installed in their respective places and stations. This proclamation is made from the east. All interested brethren, take notice, govern yourself accordingly.
Most worshipful sir. Yeah, you need your hat.
I'll get my hat.
I bet. Because I don't want to wear it. It's hot up here. Present you with your gavel, a symbol of your authority. The Grand Lodge is now yours. May I retire?
Gary, you may retire. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Most worshipful brother Ted Nelson.
Yes, I'm here. I'm fighting.
Thank you very, very much.
Honor basket. That's really tickled.
Well, you were
My best to
available.
you.
You were available at the last minute and you were cheap.
Anything, but yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much. Pleasure.
Worshipful brother Bert Turner. Thank you.
Most worshipful sir, doesn't that sound great?
It does. But thank you very, very much. I asked you some time ago if you wouldn't be willing to do this, and you agreed, and I couldn't have been happier to have. There is no man on the earth that I could have preferred to have you. As long as you don't drown. Most worshipful brothers, right worshipful brothers, brothers, ladies and gentlemen. I am extremely honored. You have no idea. But that's the last time I'm going to talk about myself, because this year is going to be all about the craft of Connecticut. We, the craft, have suffered through this COVID disaster, and we need to recover. The theme of my year is going to be, we're going to be as open as the law will allow us to be. We're going to be as active as the law will allow us to be. And I hope fervently, at least by the end of the year, that allows us to be normal, whatever that means. I have inaugurated 4 major programs: the Master's Achievement Award, 6 Steps to a Petition program, the Perfect Bachelor program, and an expanded Grand Almoner program, all of which are aimed at the craft to assist the masters and wardens in planning their years and having successful, productive years for their lodges. The 6-step program to allow us to vet the men who apply through the EMR process, who want to be Masons, they say. We need to know that they're qualified to be Masons before we give them a petition. I spoke with one of these men on the phone. He explained to me that he was currently wearing an ankle bracelet by order of the court. It didn't seem like a good start to me, but he may well be found innocent and be perfectly fine brother. I don't know. But we do need to find out before we give him a petition. Perfect Ashlar program is designed to get new brothers to move around the grand jurisdiction and learn about Masonry outside of their own home lodge. I would not be standing here now if I had not traveled outside of my own home lodge. I have met so many wonderful brothers, their wives, their kids, and my life would be so much less if I had not done that. And now I stand here having just said that, and I've remembered the most important person in my life too late again. My wife, Lisa. She has been on pins and needles for me today, and I thank her from the bottom of my heart. She has allowed me to be sworn in on her family's Bible. I remember when her mother allowed me to sign that 25 years ago, and what an amazing, important event that was in the family. It was one of my first major introductions into the DeDeo family, and I am just so honored that she allowed me to use it today. So thank you, Lisa. I love you. I think that was clear last night when I introduced you, but I hope it's even more so today, because like I said last night, you are the best thing that ever happened to me in life. So thank you. Where was I? Perfect Ashlar program allowing new brothers to move around the jurisdiction. The expanded almoner program, because one of the things that I learned out of this past year was we were not doing a really great job in keeping contact with the brothers who do not attend lodge frequently, who are out of state, or who are sick even, or do not travel at night. I want the almoners to make it their business to call or have called. Make sure that brothers get called at least a couple of times a year, just to find out how they are, to let them know what the lodge is doing when we are not looking for money from them. So often, brothers only hear from us when we're wanting to collect the dues, and that's not what we are all about. That's not what we swore before God that we would do to help, aid, and assist. So thank you, my brothers. I appreciate you all coming. I know only some of you came for me. Most of you came for Stephen, and he deserves it. He's had quite a year, and he deserved you turning out for him. I appreciate that for him, because he has done such a terrific job this past year under circumstances that no one could have wished on him, for him, and would certainly have prayed that it never occurred. So thank you, most worshipful Junior Grand Master. you can be junior for a year, right? Passed. One of the brothers in my lodge, when I first joined, said, "Prestige gone, Mr. Past Grand Master." So enjoy it. Brother Gary Graham, are you feeling better? Gary was very nervous this morning. He hasn't had the opportunity to play at Grand Lodge session, but he did terrific. And by the end of the session, you were really tickling those ivories, so thank you. I won't worry about you ever again. I have some friends here who I think I should introduce. Oh, yes, my sibling brothers. Steve, where's Steve? There's Steve and his wife, Rose. And Larry and his wife, Diane. And my friend of, gosh, how long? We're almost coming up on our 50-year college anniversary. So my friend Jeff Grandall, who has visited with us today. So thank you for coming, Jeff. I never imagined that I would be able to say 20 years ago when. Now I can say 50 years ago when, and it still shocks me. I guess that's a good thing. Brother Howard Turner and his wife Kate, thank you for coming. Sally Turner, who goes with Bert. Thank you, Sally. Randy Stevens is somewhere. There he is. In 2000, we were the millennial class of 33rd, so coordinated together. So thank you for being here, Randy. Special lady, Linda Stoff, her husband, Art. Linda's dad was George Pangborn, who was an important man in setting me on the right track in masonry. So I remember him, and I thank you for being here. So having started down a list, I've now come to the dangerous point of running out of names. I hope I haven't forgotten anyone. No, I did. Did I get Don? I didn't get Don, no. Don was my best man and my associate grand marshal, and has been a friend for, well, ever since he put me in line as an officer. So Don, thank you. I'm so pleased that you can serve as my assistant this year, and I promise to work you to death.
Thank you.
So I think we need to close lodge, and we need to rearrange this room. So they need us to be out of here by 3 o'clock. So I have no idea what time it is. Oh, so it's really late, huh? So would Frank Way. See, when you start listing names. Frank Way, where are you, Frank? There you are, the editor of the paper. So now I've really got myself in Dutch. Frank and I have been in more Scottish Rite degrees than you can count, and have been friends for a very, very long time. Lisa's making signs at me. I don't know what she's saying. I can't hear her. Oh, that's right, he did. Yes, Lisa and I went to dinner one night at Frank and Kim's house and came home with a dog, Free, a whoopsie puppy who is still living with us. He's now 11, Edward, His Royal Highness, Prince Edward of Canton. And he knows it. He had all of his teeth out last week. He's feeling much better. So thank you, Lisa. With that, I think everyone who is not a Master Mason should depart. We will meet again for dinner in this room. And I thank you all so very much.